Tonight we are saying our goodbyes to history. Goodbye, Baltimore Colts. Goodbye, Robert.
United to Amici. Amici powers in. The Colts win. They're the NFL champions.
I don't think there'll ever be a love affair between people and a team that it was in the 50s.
The era that we had gone through, the time that I played, and the Raymond Berries and Louis Eubank and those people who were here, will never be reached again.
Everybody, and welcome to Baltimore Colts football. Chuck Thompson, Vince Bagley at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, and one of the biggest games of this year or any other year, the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Baltimore Colts. And many years ago, a very talented newspaper man by the name of Cooper Rollo referred to Memorial Stadium here in Baltimore as an outdoor insane asylum. And just a matter of moments ago, when the Baltimore Colts defensive unit and the rest of the Baltimore Colts squad were introduced, this stadium rocked like I haven't heard it rock in many years, Vince. It's just the place to be this afternoon.
This football season, Memorial Stadium has been quiet for the first time in what seems like 1,000 years. The place that was called the world's only outdoor insane asylum sits empty on Sundays, and the team that played there is gone. The Colts, though, the Baltimore Colts, are alive and well in the hearts of Baltimore. They are a legacy of champions.
Here they are, the Baltimore Colts marching band.
When the Colts were winners, Baltimore was a winner. And long before there was an Inner Harbor, the Colts symbolized the pride of Baltimore. Why was the city so emotional about the Colts? Perhaps because since the late 1940s, Baltimore and the Colts grew up together, lived their joy and pain together, and together created a glorious era never to be seen again. It was a town, a time, and a team of champions. The names of the champion Colts are an honor roll of larger-than-life heroes. Some have even called them the Magnificent Seven. There was Coach Weeb Eubank.
One of the great thrills I had was our first championship in the 1958 overtime game, and I've been very fortunate in my life to have been involved in two great games. That game, which they've written up as the greatest game ever played, and the other one was Super Bowl III, which they said was the biggest upset.
Offensive tackle Jim Parker.
You can go to a stadium where they have 100,000 people, and you don't hear nothing once the game starts. All you can hear is the quarterbacks calling the signals. And you come home, when you come home to Baltimore, you can really enjoy and hear the fans. And it's a great feeling when you come out and 60,000 people make more noise than 100,000.
Defensive tackle, Art Donovan.
Yeah, we went out and we met the people. Well, you know, you go and have a few beers up and down York Road, Mr. Cousin's, Andy's Lounge, or wherever it was, and you met all the fans who were in there. We went all in the off season. We all went to all the parties. You were invited. They say, well, why'd you go? Because we wanted to go. We enjoyed it. We had a great time. We were with each other, and you got to meet a lot of people. As far as having a responsibility, I don't know. I don't think that. The people took us for what we were, and we took the people for they were fans. And you have to realize, and I always said this, the first time around is the greatest.
Halfback, Lenny Moore.
Not knowing that we were that good, I think added a very important ingredient, because we all grew together, and as that mix through Weave Eubanks coaching, as that thing started to blend together, then it like erupted, and it just kind of like carried over that, hey, Baltimore is one of, if not the top team in the NFL.
Offensive end, Raymond Berry.
It was a great blend of, I think, intelligence, talent, great competitors, leadership. We had any one of 10 or 15 guys on the team could have been a captain, and we'd have been in great shape. We liked each other.
Defensive end, Gino Marchetti.
I can remember one instance, it was an important game, and Weave said, well, say something to the team. So my statement was, my party's over at my house, costs each of you $5. Here's the address, let's win so we can have a good time. That's the way it was. It was just, even today, I think, when we get together, there's so much friendship, it's unbelievable.
And the man who made everything happen, quarterback, John Unitas.
The Baltimore Colts were such a big item to the people of Baltimore because the people of Baltimore went from week to week, just as the players, once that game was over, they were sad because now they had to go back home and go to work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but all through that week, 90% of the conversation during the week was about the upcoming game or what had transpired on the previous Sunday. You say that the stadium was the only outdoor insane asylum that anyone has ever been into. And I know that the teams that we played did not like to come here because of the tremendous fan support that we enjoyed here. And for 17 straight years was complete sellouts, and the team coming in here was a foreign team. People didn't care anything about them. They wanted to do whatever they could to beat them. And that was helpful. The fans, and I think Baltimore is still a football town, basically, even though we've had the Orioles here, who have won World Series, that it's always been a football town. It's just a physical town more so than anything else.
In the middle of it all stood Johnny U, whose excellence as a passer was matched only by his perceptive play-calling ability.
You know, everything happened or started in football with a snap of the center to the ball to me. And we were a good football team, well-balanced. And we did things a lot of people never did. I think we did an awful lot of things in the passing game that people never thought about doing, and still don't. Double wing situations, flood formations, man in motion. There's nothing that is being done today that these people haven't already seen by watching us play. I enjoyed football. I enjoyed every aspect of it, even practices, even the game time on Sunday. Of course, the game time is a culmination of a whole week's work, and the timing and coordination and that goes into the game. A lot of study. And Sunday is fun. Sunday should be a fun day for you because you should have all the hard work put behind you, and now you're going out and exercising what you've done during the week. The situations pop up, you know what the situation is, you know what you're going to have to do in order to combat that situation, and you do it.
And so to me, it was always fun. I mean, even though it was, you know, it was hard work and people were trying to kill you, it was enjoyable for me.
Number 82, Raymond Berry, was one of the players who helped make Unitas' Sunday afternoons enjoyable.
There are no magic carpet methods to success, just plain old hard work. And our hard work was done during the week. And unfortunately, when you only have an hour and a half to 2 hour practices, there's not a lot of time that you can get with an individual such as Raymond or Lenny Moore or Jimmy Orr. That time has to be done either before or after practice so that you can put individual time, quality time with one another. And Raymond and my time was spent after practice when everyone else was gone. There were a lot of times in during those years when we, as two individuals, actually put the tarp to cover the field so that in case it rained that night, it wouldn't get wet. We would have the workmen leave open one of the hash marks, from the hash mark to the sideline, which is like 20-some yards. And we would work all of our patterns off of that hash mark going down on the left side, and then we'd turn around and I'd work from the sideline, then coming into the right hash mark. And it was like 5:30, 6 o'clock a lot of times, or even when it was dark, when Raymond would get tired running. His legs would give out before my arm would.
Drafted 20th in 1954, Raymond Berry was a surprise to everybody. He wore contact lenses and had a corset for his back. He was a methodical runner who needed specially designed shoes. He didn't appear intimidating, but Raymond Berry became one of the best receivers in the history of pro football.
To have been able to play with a quarterback like John Unitas, of course, how can you go about measuring that? But, you talk about, what do I think about when I'm catching the ball? You talk about my job was catching the football, but to have a job like that, I couldn't have been in any better place to be doing it because of all the ingredients that are necessary for an athlete like myself to be able to develop to his fullest potential. You got to be surrounded by the right people. And we had an excellent, very well balanced football team. The defense could get the ball for us. And that's what makes an offense have the opportunity to do things. And when we got the ball, we had a lot of threats. And no one was ever able to concentrate on me particularly, not with Lenny Moore and Jim Mutchler, Alan Amici, L.G. Dupree, other people who could move the football. I was just one of many, and that was great. And then to have, we had a great offensive line and we could run the ball. We had a good balance, and no one could ever concentrate on our passing game because we could run the football well. So it's just a great case, I think, of fitting into an overall picture. And for a pass receiver like myself, I couldn't have been in any better place in the universe. I think, to have been a rookie in professional football, to go with a team like Baltimore, to experience the fans and the team kind of starting out together at the same time, it was an experience that has just gained a tremendous amount of significance over and above what it was when I was there as I look back on it now. And so I just think, the great years, winning has so much fun to it. You have to work hard to get those victories, but it's worth the price. Just listening to the fans out in the stadium, and they really got cranked up on the day of a game, that was quite an experience to hear them, what it communicated to the football team. And I don't know that I fully appreciated it at the time, but as the years have passed, I have, grown to understand and appreciate much more the significance of, the very special type of relationship there was there between the football team and the fans. I could see a football team having an effect on an entire area, and it had something to do with the spirit of the state of Maryland, the city of Baltimore, and the surrounding area. These are things, you don't really stop thinking about too much when you're 25, 26, 27 years old playing, but I see it now that it had an effect on the whole area and had an effect on us as players, but there's a tremendous value in a football team with a relationship with a city like it had in those years. There's something about people that live in a particular area when they watch a team that represents their area. Something very inspirational about seeing a team fight, struggle, strive to be the best they can be, have defeats, have victories. There's just something that adds a lot to people in an area that watch that. I know that it happened in Baltimore in the years I was there, and no reason why it can't happen again.
Unitas to Berry, one of the premier pass-catch combinations pro football has ever seen. They were two on a team that was destined for glory.
The Baltimore Colts started at maybe the worst football team ever assembled, 1950 Colts. And then we went away for 2 years, and we went to the Yanks and then the Dallas Texans and the 53 Colts, and we were bad. Then they brought that little frugal, little fat little man in from Cleveland, and he changed it all around. We didn't have as much fun, but he made us a great football team and made us champs. And it all goes right back to the coach, Wilbur C. Weeb Eubanks.
Who was very crucial to my career was Weeb Eubank, who was coaching the Colts whenever I came in as a rookie. And I would never have made it in professional football without Weeb deciding to take a chance on me at a time when I was a completely undeveloped talent. But he saw something in me, and he decided to go with me. And he definitely was the critical person.
The man who began coordinating the Colt efforts in 1954 was a stickler for details, for fundamentals, and team meetings. It was Weeb Eubank who believed games were won on weekdays during practice. In 1958, everything came together for the Colts. Weeb's perseverance was about to pay off.
Our theme for that year was to know and be known. We thought we had a good football team, but nobody respected us. And so that was our theme for the whole year, that I felt that if we knew our material well and went out and executed, that we would be known. And so that's the way we felt about it. And as far as teamwork, I recall a few years back when the Pirates won the baseball, they talked about family. Well, I definitely felt that clear back in '58, we were family also. And they acted as if that was something new in sports. But we had that. We had our Thanksgiving get-togethers and all of our parties, family days out at training camp. And we always ate together as a team. I think in those days there were many players that would have played for nothing. And today it seems that they want more money. Everything is more money. And I think what it has done, plus the agents, I think the thing that it has done is this, that we have more individualism than we had then. I think overall we had more teamwork. And we didn't make much money. And so one of the goals was to win the championship so we would get more money. Is the difference in that today, some of the players today, when they win a championship, all that does is gives them more IRS problems.
In his corral, Weeb had an almost unequaled collection of talent, men dedicated to the game of football. Not only Coach Eubank, but 6 of his players were destined for the Hall of Fame. Unitas, Berry, Moore, Donovan, Marchetti, and Big Jim Parker. En route, they would play the greatest game ever played. Yankee Stadium, the New York Giants, 1958, the World Championship of Professional Football. After all the words that were exchanged in the press, the battle would come down to the basics of every football game. Player versus player at the scrimmage line.
I remember a man by the name of Zimmerman from Sports Illustrated called me recently, was writing a letter on Hannah of of the New England team, and saying he's the greatest lineman there ever was. Well, I had to tell him he had never seen Jim Parker, because Jim Parker, I think, is one of the greatest offensive linemen there ever was.
I received a fan mail from a guy who was named Colt, and they named him in, I think he had an anniversary. He was named after the 1958 championship team, and the letter just stuck with me because I answered the letter back, and I was really amazed that somebody would name their kids after the 1958 Colts. The importance of that particular game was after 14 weeks of hard work and preparing for it, when you go to camp the first day of camp, that's the only thing on your mind is winning a championship. And you get into that game with an honor. And to win it, and the way it was won in overtime, and I meet you running the ball, John throwing the ball, Raymond catching the ball, and the offensive line blocking, and it was just a total effort, and it meant a hell of a lot to me. I never forget it. I think about it sometimes. You lay here at night and you think about, the night before the game, you lay up there all night, didn't sleep, thinking about the guy that you had to play against, and I think about Andy Robustelli. His name alone scared me. Andy Robustelli, some monster or something.
Parker versus Robustelli was just one of the many key matchups in the game with a million thrills. The importance of this championship game, though, was millions of viewers. The 1958 World Championship was one of the first great dramatic games with television coverage across the country, and it ushered in the golden era of professional football. The Colts packed a season of excitement into the last 2 minutes of the struggle for the championship. Trailing 17-14, John Unitas commanded the Colts from their own 14-yard line.
Back goes Unitas. He throws to the sideline, and it's a completed pass to Lenny Moore. With 2nd and 10, Unitas back to pass, throws complete to Berry. Berry is at the 45, still going at midfield, and knocked down. And the next 1 minute and 5 seconds will tell the entire story of this big football year. The Colts back huddling, come out of the huddle, up over the line of scrimmage, 1st and 10 at the 50-yard line. Unitas fakes the pitch out, throws to Berry, complete, and Berry is brought down from behind after picking up a 1st down. There are 40 seconds left to play. The ball on the Giants' 35, 1st and 10. Unitas back to pass. He throws. It is complete to Berry. Berry to the 10, the 5. Berry's down. The ball is spotted at the 7-yard line. 10 seconds left to go. Mario will attempt the field goal for the 20-yard line. 5. Here's the boot. It is high. It is good. He makes it. Myra makes it.
The sudden death overtime only seemed to spark the Colts, and they began an 80-yard march to the greatest ending in the greatest of games.
Unitas this time gives to Amici, finds a big hole in the center. Amici rams his way forward, deep into payoff territory.
Unitas came to the sideline. He says, well, what do you think, Weeb? And I said, well, we're right down there near the goal. Let's keep it on the ground, and let's let Allen carry the ball because he rarely fumbles, and if we have to, we'll go for the field goal. And so now what happens? The first play was Allen carrying the ball, and the second one he threw to Jimmy Mutchler. And Jimmy caught the ball, and had he realized where he was more, well, I think he'd have fallen to his left. He would have scored, but he ran out of bounds straight ahead. And so then the next play, Allen went on in and scored for the winning touchdown. First, they accused me that I was playing point spread. Well, I didn't even know what the point spread was and could care less. I wasn't thinking about it. That's something I never did. And yeah, that's the way it happens to you. But I remember afterwards, the newspapers they came running at me. Why would you throw a pass down there? I said, don't ask me, and I just called it. And I said, it was pretty good, wasn't it? Well, so they asked John, and John said, why? He said, if you weren't open, he said, I'd thrown it away. But that isn't the way fumbles and interceptions and things happen. Here's that guy from the blind side that hits you and lose it. But fortunately, it worked out for us.
It more than worked out for the Colts. It thrust them and Baltimore into the national spotlight for years to come. And it forged memories of a team that will never be forgotten.
It's 3rd and 1 yard to go for the championship. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores.
There's no better halfbacks than Lenny Moore today. If I had given a ball to Lenny Moore from the type of formation they're running now, as many times as they run today, none of them would touch him.
I think Lenny Moore on any given day, I think Lenny Moore was the greatest football player I've ever seen. He could do everything. He could run, he could catch the ball. I think Lenny, if he wanted to play defense as a defensive back, I think he'd been maybe one of the greatest defensive backs that ever played. He had more talent, I guess, than mostly anybody I've ever seen a game of football. All around, to catch it. I guess Lenny could even pass it if he wanted to. Anything Lenny put his mind to do, he could have done.
One of the most spectacular ball-carrying and pass-receiving threats in football history. Lenny Moore was known for his explosive speed and dazzling elusiveness because any time he touched the ball, he could score, go all the way.
I was blessed with God-given ability. And the God-given ability I was blessed with exemplified itself in this natural ability being used that it was hard for me to refocus. I'd have to look at the playback to see what happened. It was hard for me to refocus what I did. So somebody said, well, what happened? You made this run. Man, how did you do it? Or how did it? I don't know how I did it. It happened. That's what happened, you know. That's the natural athlete. From what I understand, they drafted me as a defensive back. So when I got down here, they really didn't look at me defensively. But I got down here, I was an offensive halfback, and immediately they installed me into the wide receiving thing, so I was doing like double duty, which was great because it gave me an opportunity to learn another position. But it was the smartness of Weeb Ewbank in his organizational setup that each one of these guys had the ability to be able to do 2, 3, 4, 5 different things. So in case somebody went down, because we didn't have that large a roster, we only had like 33 guys on the ball club. And so like, I know I was on the punt team, punt return team, kickoff return team, you know, and as well as the offensive team. And it was the same with all the others, with the exception of, you know, the quarterback, quite natural, you had to protect him. So he couldn't be on all the special teams, but most of the other guys on the ball club were on special teams. And that's like unheard of today.
After all of his brilliant runs and catches, Lenny Moore never gave himself individual credit. His success, he claimed, was due to the team. And Lenny Moore was a pure team performer.
There was nothing I could do on the field that wasn't induced by that good block or that good pass that I might have caught or whatever. So there was nothing individually that I could do unless someone got me started.
With his graceful balance and long strides, Lenny Moore gave the spectators one memorable play after another. Looking back, he remembers the great strides made by the team and by the city. He recalls Baltimore in the 1950s and 1960s.
some of the tradition and some of the things that were going on here wasn't to my liking. And I say that because there were, you know, it was different because as being a black ball player, I couldn't go downtown and eat. I couldn't go to the movies. A lot of places I couldn't go. I couldn't live where I wanted to live. So there were restrictions. And that's not an easy thing to go through when you come up around what is a team situation and you know those things develop. And you have to make the adjustments and no one else has to make the adjustments. And, of course, it's made me a better man by having gone through that and having to deal with that. But I've seen through that football team sort of a bringing together. As the team grew, I've seen the city kind of grow and open up. And I like to feel that what we did of showing that brotherhood, that togetherness and cooperative kind of thing on the field, I think kind of carried over into the fans. And then we were the kind of ball club, too. We were kind of guys that were automatically out in the community. And people got to know us, we got to know them. And all that helped to ease down, let's say, those racial barriers. I've seen a lot of that change down through the years. And I attribute a lot of that to our ball club.
Just as pro football will never see another with the talent of Lenny Moore, there will never be another marriage between a city and a team like Lenny witnessed in the glory years of the Baltimore Colts.
It's a good football city. I would say it's a good football city. They're like every other city. I wouldn't say they're any different. I mean, when you lose, you take the blows, and when you win, they go crazy. But we were different because in that era, which you may never again see, we had a uniqueness. It was a relationship of fan, player, organization, which every city hopes that they have in their professional team. We had that. And that's what made Baltimore really supreme. It wasn't a football team that happened to win the World Championship. It was a city craving for a professional team that got a professional team that grew and supported that team as that team started growing little by little by little.
I played in the greatest era in the National Football League. At least I had the pleasure of playing in the greatest era. I think it was the 50s and early 60s. And the fellas like the same guys that we played with on those teams, we still keep very friendly. Guys like Alex Sandusky and Jim Mutchler and Ordell Bracey and Buzz Nutter and when Marchetti and Amici come into town, if we're at someplace, Szymanski, if we're at someplace, we have more fun now. The lives get bigger and better all the time. The stories are better. We get better with time, but it was a great feeling, really was.
Among the most popular Colts with players and fans, and among the finest defensive linemen in the National Football League, Art Donovan's approach to life is just like his pass rush, direct and to the point.
I'm 60 years old, and I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I like to tell a story that I take her with me a lot when I get a chance. I take her down to the supermarket down here named Growls in Ruxton. And all the old people, and I'm walking around the aisles with her and pushing the cart, and they'll come up to me and say, "Oh, we remember when you played. You guys were great, and you were such great football players." And I get a kick out of it. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't. There's a little bit of a ham in all of us, you know? And I've been telling stories ever since I've been 6 years old in front of a candy store in the Bronx. And my little daughter will say, "Boy, Daddy, you fellas must have really been great. You know, your buttons pop a little bit. Let's face facts."
I think Arthur is the type of person that you're very fortunate on a championship team if you have a man like him, because he really, everybody loved him. He's always in his room at training camp, and he's telling these stories that he tells, and they've all heard him tell them 50 times, and each time they get bigger. But they all enjoy being around him because he is a funny individual and a fine football player. Nobody ever trapped Arthur. He was in there, and he protected this little territory right here.
Art has become the unofficial humorist of the Colts' glorious past. He's the keeper of the team's funniest moments.
Well, I think the funniest thing that ever happened in the locker room was when Gino Marchetti and Carl Tasser, we were fooling around with buckets of cold water. And we were throwing on different guys who were unsuspecting, you know, and they'd have a heart attack and all that. And some fella got hurt, and Weeb Eubanks sent John Sandusky, who was our defensive line coach, out to tell us to knock it off. If Weeb catches anybody throwing a bucket of water, he's going to fine him. If it fines him, he's going to fine him $500. So everybody stopped. But Marchetti said to Carl Tassif, he says, Gaucho. We called him Gaucho because he was 5'10" and he had bow legs. He looked like a cowboy. If you hit him in 2 knees, he'd be 6'4". He said, Gaucho, one more bucket of water, and that's it. And Gaucho is sort of jerky anyhow. He says, okay, Gino. And Gino says, now, while Amici comes around the corner, I'll nod, and you hit him with the bucket of water. And Gaucho, here, this jerk is standing there with the bucket of water, and here comes Weeb Eubanks out of his office, all dressed up to go over to tape his Wednesday afternoon TV show. And he comes around the corner, and Marchetti goes, now, Gaucho, and Gaucho throws the bucket of water, and he sees Weeb, he goes, Jesus Christ, Coach, and he comes running after the water to put it back in the bucket. Well, if you ever saw grown men cry, guys were laying on the ground, they were laying in the locker room, they were screaming. I think a lot of them wet their pants, really.
When it came time to be serious, there was no one more determined than number 70 to get the job done. No one was more respected than Baltimore's strong defensive tackle. No one was more of a Baltimore Colt than Art Donovan. As Art Donovan's stories grow bigger and bigger, they begin to approach the magnitude of the man who played alongside of him, the greatest defensive end of all time. Defensive captain Gino Marchetti was regularly double-teamed and even triple-teamed, yet still managed to overpower opponents and send quarterbacks spinning. Gino's memories now are of a great deal of fun.
At that time, we really didn't feel like a professional team. We felt like we were a college team in the city because of our relationship with the city and the city with us. A lot of times you're blessed with the ability to play. I think I was really blessed because of the men I played with. I think we did have a family. There was no superstars. There was no special locker rooms. We all got along great. I think the most memorable moment I can remember was in 1958 when we beat the 49ers here in Baltimore. That was, if you remember the game, we were behind 26-6, I think at halftime, and we went out to beat them, and that was the first time we'd won the Western Division Championship. And to me, I think that was more of a thrill than a championship game.
Gino, a man who knows a little bit about big business, found football most enjoyable before it became big.
When we were here, football wasn't big business. Football was a thing that owners got involved with. It was a toy. But today, football is big business. The agents, all the money they make, they don't get together as we did, Now they practice, they play hard, and they all go their separate ways.
Anchoring the Colts defense, Gino set the standard for the men he played with and those who followed. Trying to measure up, to equal his personal stature, made the Colts a better team. When you think of Hearst Loudy Loudenslager, you think of one of the main links between the Colts and the city, the Colts' #1 fan. His home is a storehouse of Colt collector items, but what he treasures most are the memories.
Yeah, so many things that the ordinary fan just does not know. There's no way of knowing, And I guess sometimes people get sick and tired of seeing me or whatever, but they don't understand what's gone into this over half a lifetime. My involvement began the first game in 1947 when we played the Los Angeles Dons here. That was the beginning, and I was captivated by the game then. That first game took me over. It was just something that it got in my blood.
Loudy was a familiar face when the Colts returned to Baltimore from their away games.
I just felt as though that there should be somebody there greeting the team when they leave and when they come back, and especially when they come back. You come home 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, the airport is deserted, and if you had a hell of a loss, but I was there every game, every time.
And Loudy was familiar, too, when it came time to organize the corrals of Colt fans who gave support to their hometown team.
In 1957, the first corral was formed by Ed Loud and Leo Novak. And 4 months later, I formed Colts Corral number 2. And I've been a part of the forming of every corral but one, number 1. I've been on the membership committee of every corral that's been formed. We have Colts Corral number 32 is in Hanover, Pennsylvania, which is in another state. Corral number 14 is in Newcastle, Delaware, which is another state. So we have 2 out-of-state corrals. Well, the most unusual would have to be Colts Corral number 954, quartered at the Maryland Penitentiary.
Each corral consists of about 50 to 100 people. And these people, they follow this team from one area to the other, from one city to the another. We get to Cleveland, we got 15, 30 corrals there shouting, Coach, 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 Coach. And they put a lot of work into this team.
The fans are fabulous. I laugh at some of them talk about the crowds that met them. The people were crazy when we came back from New York in 58. Some people knocked the windows out of our bus. We didn't come clear into the gates. We had a bus to come out to pick us up way out on the runway because of the crowd. There was an enormous crowd out there at the airport.
When it came to helping a city fall in love with its football team, Loudy's self-appointed mission was easy.
They called the Cowboys America's team. Well, at that time, the Baltimore Colts, because everywhere all over this country, people would talk about the Baltimore Colts.
The spirit of the fans has always been a hallmark of Baltimore football. The Colt history will always be preserved. The Magnificent Seven became the first wave of champions on a team of champions, the Baltimore Colts, who took a simple storybook beginning and turned it into a legend.
They talk about the 58 game being the one that really created the game of football or put National Football League on the map, and that's true. The fan is just as different now as the fan was back in those days. They're looking for a lot different things than what the other people look for. The game itself has changed because of the money, because of the TV, because of all the football teams that are involved. You see so much of it. There aren't as many great players on one football team now than it was years ago.
The times and even the town that first made the Baltimore Colts famous have changed, but there are memories that will never be forgotten.
We all did it together. It was a team. It was a team effort. It wasn't just maybe one guy doing it all. Maybe if one guy, I had to say, did most of it, it'd have to be John Unitas. But here's a team that was molded together by the sharp little fat weasel, who I call it, adoringly, came from the Browns to us, and he made us a great football team, maybe the greatest team ever assembled.
host of Colts who sometimes go unsung. But in the tradition of the Colts, they're a part of a long line that begins with the 7 Hall of Famers. Jimmy Orr, Willie Richardson, Don Shula, Alex Sandusky, Alan the Horse Amici, Mike Curtis, John Mackey, and so many others. Weeb Ewbank returned as coach of the New York Jets in Super Bowl III to upset his old team, but the Colts showed their pride in overturning the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl V.